Hello, boys and girls. This is Miss Belcher again, and I am going to do another math mini lesson with you. Now, before I start my new material, I'm going to go back over what I went over on the last lesson, okay? We've learned since the beginning of school that this is a 10 frame, and we know that when you have all the spaces in the 10 frame, we don't count those one by one. When they're all filled up, we call this a 10, okay? Now, look at my equal sign, and we know that equal means is the same as, okay? So on my last lesson, I showed you how I turned this 10 frame into what we call a base 10 rod. And I just took each square one at a time, and I moved it over. There's 10 squares in here, or 10 individual squares in here, and I stacked all of those 10 squares into a base 10 rod. So as you can see the numbers, I have 10 squares that came from my 10 frame. Just as this is a 10, this is also a 10, okay? So we're not going to call these squares, we're going to call this is a 10, and you can see I wrote that there. Now, as I told you last time, just to save time, instead of having to draw 10 squares every time, we are going to use a symbol, okay? And a symbol is just something that stands for something else. So instead of having to use or write or draw 10 squares, we're just going to draw a line. But instead of calling this a line, we're not going to call it a line, boys and girls. Remember, we're going to call it a 10. So all of these things are equal, okay? This is 10, this is 10, and this is 10. Now, think about this for a second. Is this 10? No, because this is not 10 squares, or it's not a complete line. This is what we call a 1. Okay, and ones are separated. Now that we know that, we're going to learn something a little bit new, okay? And you are going to be doing a worksheet this week about how to turn some base 10 into a number, okay? Now, I have my little chart here, and I have kind of separated. On this side is 10s, and on this side is 1s, okay? Now, if you think about what we've done before at calendar time, when we have our little straws and our sticks, we normally see hundreds, we see 10s, and then we see 1s. Well, we're not going to get into the hundreds quite yet. We're just going to focus on 10s and 1s. Now, if you notice, 10s always comes first, okay? Unless we're working with some bigger numbers. But for the numbers that we're going to work with today, our 10s are going to come first. And then our 1s are going to come next, okay? So I'm going to draw something out for you. And remember, I'm going to see if you can remember what this is. Remember, this is a 10. Because remember, I'm not going to draw my 10 squares just to save time. I'm going to draw a line, but when we see this line, this is our symbol for a 10. So my 10s are going to go this side. So I'm never going to see little squares on this side. I'm only going to see 10s. Now on this side, I'm going to put 2 squares, or I'm not going to call these squares. I'm going to call them 1s. This is my 10 side. This is my 1 side, okay? Now, I can turn these 10s, or this 10 and 1s, and turn it into a digit, okay? Now, we've talked about that word. That's a fancy Nancy word. Digit is just another word for a number, okay? That's it. Now, as you know, Miss Belcher loves to make songs. So I've used this song year after year after year, and I had to kind of tweak it a little bit to make sure that it's correct. So I'm going to show you, as I said, the 10s always come first, and then the 1s, okay? So listen to my song, and it'll kind of help you. The first one is the 10s, the second one is the 1s. You put it all together, you got 10s and 1s. tens, tens, ones, ones. I got my tens, tens, ones, ones. You put it all together and you have a double digit. Now, we know that this is a 10. So let's think about it. At the bottom, I have blank tens. Well, let's look at it. How many tens do I see? I only see one. So I'm going to write the number 1 because I have 1 10. Now let's go over to the next one, because remember, like I said in my song, the first one is the tens. So your first digit is always going to be your tens. Then listen to the song again. The second one is the 1. So the second digit is the ones. How many ones do you see? 1, 2. And if you notice, my ones are not together because they're separate. Ones kind of stand by themselves. They're separate. So I see 2 ones. So right where it says blank ones, I'm going to write 2 ones. Now notice, if I put this 1 and 2 together, boys and girls, I'm not actually going to add them. So I'm not trying to add 1 plus 2 because there's no addition or plus sign. I'm just going to put these 2 digits together to make a double digit. So watch what my number is. The first one is the tens. The second one is the ones. You put it all together, you have tens and ones. Tens, tens, ones, ones. I got my tens, tens, ones, ones. You put it all together and you have a double digit. So the first digit or number was a 1. The second digit or the second number was a 2. And then we put those digits together to make the number 12. Let's try one more. Okay. Let's see. We might actually try 2 more just to make sure, because there might be some that tricky. All right, let's see. I'm going to draw my tens because remember, the first digit you always see in these numbers that we're working on is the tens. The first one is the tens. Let's try my ones. The second one is the ones. All right, let's look at this. All right, boys and girls, let's see how many tens. Let's count how many tens you see. 1, 2, 3. So how many tens are there? There are 3 tens. The first one is the tens. Now let's go to our ones. The second one is the ones. How many ones do you see? Let's count together. 1, 2, 3, 4. I see 4 ones. Now we're going to put them together to make a double digit. 3 goes first because the tens always comes first. And then the 4 comes next because the ones go second. So the first one is the tens. The second one is the ones. You put them all together, you got tens and ones. Tens, tens, ones, ones. I got my tens, tens, ones, ones. You put it all together and you've got a double digit. So my double digit is 3 tens, 4 ones. When you put them together, I have the digit 34. I have the double digit 34. All right, I'm going to do one last one, but this time I'm going to do a tricky one to see if you can get it. All right, let's stop and let's look at this. How many tens do you see? I don't see any tens, so I'm just going to write the number 0. How many ones do you see? 1, 2. I write the number 2. Now, we're going to put these two digits together, okay? I'm going to put 0 there, I'm going to put 2. Now, if you notice this, I have a 0 right in front of that 2. So we don't necessarily have to have that 0, okay? This is just the number 2. There are no tens, no lines, but we only have ones. There's 2. So this digit is the number 2, okay? All right, boys and girls, we're going to go to something else next time. I'll see you next time.